Well, tomorrow marks 6 months since Hamas terrorists brutally attacked, raped, maimed, and killed over 1,200 people in Israel. Another 240 people were taken hostage. Over 100 still remain in captivity, although we don't know how many are still alive, including the 5 Americans. David Mencer is a spokesman for the Israeli government, and he joins us now. David, look, politics, diplomacy, it's all part of relationships between countries. But unfortunately for Israel right now, Joe Biden is very much concerned about his prospects this November. And the progressive, anti-Israel and growing anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party has kind of taken hold of the campaign and this country as far as the Democrats go, which is why he probably publicly dressed down Netanyahu in that phone call. From Israel's perspective, how much harder is it to finish this war and eradicate Hamas if America is seen as wavering?
Well, Rob, thank you very much for having me join you. Look, we have to be very careful in Israel because the relationship between the US and Israel is, of course, a bipartisan one, and that's extremely important to us. Look, the president and the US have been side by side with us for decades and decades and decades, and for almost 5.5 months of this war that we have been side by side because we share an enemy, and that enemy is Iran. Iran, who is destabilizing this region, is behind Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. They're our enemies, but of course they're your enemies as well. So in that sense, I think that the objectives of this war, of destroying Hamas, of bringing back our hostages, and of course making sure Hamas can never be a threat to us again, those are objectives shared by President Biden and by Israel.
Well, you have your own politics to deal with now, too, right? Benny Gantz from the opposition party took his cue from Chuck Schumer and is calling for early fall elections in Israel. Israelis have been very supportive of the war efforts. What will happen now, though, that politics is getting more injected into kind of every domestic war decision? What's it like there politically? It was very cohesive. What's happening now?
Well, I think it's very important to understand that here in Israel, there is unity. I mean, I know there are news reports talking about something else, but I would say that on the whole, there is unity to get this job done and finished. We need to get our hostages back. That's the priority. You know, I'll tell you a funny story, Rob. I was in just having my hair cut earlier at the end of last week, and the hairdresser said to me, you know, my son's been called up again for the army, and although he's studying right now, he's in the middle of his studies in university, he put down his books, he put down his pen, and he went back to the army. And when his father said, look, my son, you've got studies already. What are you doing back to the army? He says, if I don't go, who will go? And that's the way that all of us here in Israel feel. This is a threat for our very existence. The Prime Minister has likened this war to our war of independence. We have no choice. We simply must win. We refuse to live next to this genocidal organization anymore. We have no choice. And you can be sure that we are taking every single measure to win this war, while at the same time protecting civilians as well.
Yeah, I hope a lot of people in this country get that message. Any update on negotiations for the hostages who kind of seem totally forgotten by the media and our own government here, quite frankly? What's the latest on that?
Well, we just received the news, the bittersweet news, to be frank, that one of our hostages, Elad Katsir, his body was rescued by the IDF. Tragic news, of course, but at least, unfortunately, you know, at least we've got his body back so his family can grieve and find some sort of closure. Look, maybe this has fallen off the front lines of the news in other countries, but you can be damn sure that it's the very top of our agenda here. It's an open wound in Israeli society, and I've been briefed just very recently about our negotiations, and very often we're choosing to pursue the negotiated route, even when we know there is a military angle to get the hostages back. So we're working as hard as we can, and nothing will stop us from bringing these people back. They're our people. It's 6 months off now, 6 months in Hamas's terror tunnels. It's almost unthinkable. We're going to get them back, whether the world likes it or not. They're our people, and they deserve to come home right now.
Yes, they do. God bless them. Reporting, though, on this is really one-sided, right? And not on Israel's side. The picture being painted is that Israel has no regard for anyone in Gaza. What is Israel doing for humanitarian assistance and to try to ensure the safety of people who are caught in the middle of this war?
Well, that's a great question, Rob, because, you know, the facts don't lie. It's the facts which lots of the media are not reporting, but the facts don't lie. Before this war, there were about 70 food trucks alone going into Gaza. At the last count, there's about 200, 250 a day. On average, it's about 140 a day. So we're getting as much aid as we possibly can into Gaza. The problem is distribution. And the United Nations, unfortunately, are hopelessly disorganized when it comes to distribution. So we're trying our hardest to get aid to the right people. And when it comes to civilians, you know, I think when the dust settles on this war, you can be sure that the civilian to casualty to terrorist ratio will be as low as any army has ever seen. That's what General Petraeus said. That's what John Spencer, the head of urban warfare at West Point, said. So I think when the dust settles, the truth will be known that actually we've done more to keep civilians out of the way, while at the same time going for Hamas and Islamic Jihad, who are our real enemies.
Real quickly, David, are you worried about Iran and their potential retaliation for the bombing, you know, in Damascus?
So we've been quite clear that we're not commenting on that particular incident. What we can say is that is what Rear Admiral Hadari said, that this wasn't a civilian embassy. This was an Al-Quds Iranian terrorist base. And so that's very important to make clear. Look, it's 6 months now that we've been on our highest alert. These are difficult days for the people of Israel. We've had some ominous warnings about Iran attacking, but we are strong, we are united, and we know, of course, that Iran is our enemy, but they're your enemy as well. They think that the US is the great Satan. They call us the little Satan. So we know that our battle is your battle. We're on the front line of civilizations, and we're going to finish the job.
David Mencer, you're a great spokesman for the Israeli government. Thanks for coming on today.
Great to be with you, Rob. Thank you very much.